Good day, fabulous listeners. Welcome to the Gaily News, your daily dose of fresh LGBTQ plus news from around the globe. I'm your host, Elliot Bright, bringing you stories about our community with nothing but the facts. On this Tuesday, March 3rd, we're diving into some heavy hits from the U.S. courts and states, plus a glimmer of community resilience, because even when the world tries to dim our light, we keep shining. We've got 4 domestic stories that scream "not today" to the backlash, and 1 international spotlight on global fallout. Let's get into it, darlings. First, the U.S. Supreme Court just dropped a bombshell. They temporarily blocked California's policies protecting trans students' privacy. In a divided emergency order issued Monday night, the conservative majority sided with religious parents and teachers challenging rules that generally prevent schools from outing trans kids without consent or forcing teachers to use preferred pronouns against their beliefs. The court said the parents are likely to win on religious freedom and parental rights claims. This could force schools to notify parents about gender identity or expression changes, putting trans youth at risk in unsupportive homes. Trans advocates are calling it a dangerous step backward for student safety. Transitioning from courts to state-level cruelty, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton issued a legal opinion today declaring that the state's 2023 ban on gender-affirming medical care for minors also applies to mental health providers. Licensed therapists, counselors, and psychologists can't offer gender-affirming therapy or counseling to trans youth, or they risk losing licenses, public funding, including Medicaid, or even child abuse charges under mandatory reporting rules. Paxton called affirmation unethical indoctrination and child abuse. This extends the ban beyond physical treatments to any supportive mental health care, devastating for trans kids needing talk therapy. And speaking of workplace attacks, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, issued a 2-to-1 appellate decision back on February 26th, but fresh coverage and implications are hitting hard today. This vote allows federal agencies to designate bathrooms and intimate spaces by biological sex, excluding trans employees from facilities matching their gender identity. The ruling, in a case from a trans federal worker at Fort Riley, Kansas, says Title VII permits single-sex spaces and doesn't require access based on identity. This aligns with Trump's executive orders and puts trans federal employees at risk of harassment or denial of basic dignity on the job. But not all news is doom. Shout out to resilience in Ohio. The full-spectrum Rainbow House of the Mahoning Valley, Ohio's only dedicated LGBTQ+ adult homeless shelter, is gearing up for its grand opening on March 16th in Youngstown. Organizers announced today they're on track, emphasizing everyone deserves a warm bed amid rising housing insecurity for queer adults facing discrimination. Led by trans and queer leaders, this safe space will provide emergency shelter and support, proof that community builds what systems often deny. Finally, international ripple effects. Fresh reporting today highlights how U.S. PEPFAR funding cuts, suspended under current policy, are devastating LGBTQ+ support in Cameroon. A homeless trans woman shared her story of losing access to safe spaces, HIV prevention, and basic services that PEPFAR once funded, showing how American decisions export harm to vulnerable queer communities abroad. This underscores the global stakes when U.S. aid for HIV/AIDS and LGBTQ+ health gets slashed. That wraps today's roundup on the Gaily News. These stories remind us the fight is real, the stakes are high, but our community is unbreakable. Thank you for listening, for staying informed, and for showing up fierce every day. Support your local orgs, call out the nonsense, and take care of each other. This is Elliot Bright signing off. Catch you tomorrow for more unapologetic truth. Keep shining, you icons.